Welcome to English Beast, a place where real stories become real motivation. Today, we are not listening to a story of overnight success. We are listening to the story of patience, of discipline, of a boy who never imagined that one day, his decisions would shape the digital lives of billions of people around the world. Stay with me. Because this story does not begin in a luxury house, a foreign university, or a powerful company. It begins in a small two-room home in Chennai, India, where resources were limited, but curiosity was unlimited. For years, this boy lived without a car, without a computer, sometimes, even without a telephone. Yet his mind was always active, questioning how things worked, why systems failed, and how small improvements could make a big difference. At that time, he never imagined leading a global technology empire. He never imagined becoming the CEO of one of the most powerful companies in history. That boy was Sundar Pichai. Let me ask you something: can someone from an ordinary background build an extraordinary future? Sundar's childhood was shaped not by privilege, but by values. His father worked hard, lived simply, and believed deeply in education. Learning was not treated as an option, it was a responsibility. Sundar walked long distances to school. He studied during power cuts. And when his family finally installed a telephone, neighbors lined up to use it. Sundar remembered every number, not for praise, but because attention mattered. Repeat after me. My background does not limit my destiny. At IIT Kharagpur, surrounded by some of India's brightest minds, Sundar did not feel superior. He felt challenged. He struggled. He adapted. He learned humility early, an ingredient many leaders discover too late. From IIT to Stanford University, and later Wharton, the pattern stayed the same. No shortcuts. No entitlement. Only respect for learning and patience for progress. This was not the story of speed. It was the story of preparation. And soon, that preparation would be tested inside a young, chaotic, ambitious company called Google. When Sundar Pichai joined Google in 2004, nothing about his arrival suggested future leadership. Google was growing fast, filled with brilliant engineers, bold thinkers, and strong personalities. Ideas collided daily. Voices competed. Visibility mattered. And Sundar chose the opposite approach. He didn't try to stand out. He didn't fight for credit. He focused on understanding how teams worked, how products failed, how users behaved. While others chased recognition, Sundar chased clarity. Let me ask you something: when you are surrounded by talent, do you rush to prove yourself, or do you quietly become indispensable? Sundar became indispensable. His first major assignment was Google Toolbar, a product many inside the company saw as unimportant. But Sundar saw something deeper. He understood distribution. He saw how control over the browser meant control over the user experience. While others dismissed the product, Sundar refined it. He listened to engineers. He respected designers. He simplified complexity for decision-makers. Repeat after me. Every small responsibility is training for a bigger one. In meetings, Sundar had a rare ability: he could summarize conflicting opinions without offending anyone. He didn't dominate conversations, he organized them. Slowly, teams realized something important. When Sundar spoke, confusion disappeared. That clarity led him to an idea many feared: building a web browser. Competing with giants like Microsoft was risky. Resistance was strong. But Sundar didn't push with ego. He built alignment. He explained patiently. He focused on users. That idea became Google Chrome. Chrome wasn't flashy. It was fast, simple, reliable. And users loved it. What began as an internal risk became the world's most used browser. Yet Sundar didn't celebrate loudly. He returned to work the same way he always had. No drama. No self-promotion. Just progress. With Chrome's success, Sundar was trusted with more: Chrome OS, Android, and core product strategy. Each promotion came not from ambition, but from trust. People trusted his judgment. His calm. His consistency. But responsibility brings pressure. Decisions now affected millions, soon billions, of users. Mistakes could no longer be hidden. And Sundar understood something critical. Leadership isn't about brilliance alone. It's about balance. The silent engineer was becoming something else. A leader. And the world was about to notice. As Sundar Pichai's responsibilities grew, something unusual began to happen. In a company known for strong opinions and bold personalities, his calm stood out more than noise ever could. Meetings that felt chaotic became clearer when he spoke. Decisions that seemed complicated became manageable. He wasn't the loudest voice in the room. He was the clearest. Let me ask you something: do you think leadership is about being heard the most, or being understood the best? Sundar understood people before leading them. At Google, innovation often meant disagreement. Engineers challenged managers. Ideas clashed. Egos collided. Sundar never tried to overpower those moments. He absorbed them. He listened carefully, then reframed the discussion so everyone felt included. Repeat after me. Calm is not weakness. Calm is control. This ability became his signature. When teams disagreed, Sundar aligned them. When uncertainty rose, he reduced it. When pressure increased, his voice softened. And paradoxically, the softer he spoke, the more people leaned in. His leadership expanded beyond products. He began shaping culture. When Android grew into the world's largest mobile platform, Sundar ensured it stayed open, accessible, and user-focused. He balanced innovation with responsibility. Growth with ethics. Speed with stability. And then came a defining moment. In 2015, Google reorganized under a new parent company called Alphabet. Founders Larry Page and Sergey Brin stepped back from day-to-day operations. The company needed someone to run Google itself, someone trusted, steady, and deeply respected. They chose Sundar Pichai. Not because he demanded it. Not because he campaigned for it. But because he earned it. Becoming CEO of Google changed everything. Scrutiny intensified. Expectations multiplied. Every decision was now global. Privacy, regulation, artificial intelligence, nothing was small anymore. Yet Sundar remained unchanged. He spoke carefully. He acted thoughtfully. He led patiently. When he later became CEO of Alphabet, the responsibility grew even larger. Billions of lives touched by technology. Trillions in economic impact. Ethical questions with no simple answers. And still, Sundar stayed grounded. He remembered the two-room home. He remembered walking to school. He remembered learning under streetlights. Because power means nothing without perspective. And perspective, for Sundar Pichai, was his greatest strength. Leadership is easy when things are going well. Growth is celebrated. Innovation is praised. Success feels light. But real leadership begins when decisions attract criticism instead of applause. When the world stops cheering and starts questioning. For Sundar Pichai, this phase arrived quietly, but it arrived heavily. As CEO of Google and later Alphabet, Sundar stepped into an era where technology was no longer just exciting, it was feared, examined, and challenged. The same platforms that connected the world were now accused of shaping opinions, influencing elections, and collecting too much power. Every decision mattered. Privacy concerns grew louder. Governments demanded answers. Employees questioned policies. The public expected perfection. And suddenly, the calm engineer found himself standing in front of lawmakers, cameras, and critics, forced to explain systems too complex for simple answers. Let me ask you something. How do you stay calm when millions of people are judging every word you say? Sundar chose responsibility over reaction. During congressional hearings, he didn't raise his voice. He didn't deflect blame. He didn't attack critics. Instead, he listened. He acknowledged concerns. He explained patiently, even when questions were aggressive, repetitive, or unfair. Repeat after me. Pressure reveals character. It doesn't create it. Inside Google, challenges were just as intense. Employees protested decisions they disagreed with. Ethical debates around artificial intelligence, data usage, and company contracts grew more complex. Sundar understood something crucial: leadership was no longer about building products alone, it was about building trust. And trust is fragile. He made decisions that pleased some and disappointed others. He accepted criticism without becoming defensive. He admitted mistakes when necessary. Not because it was easy, but because accountability mattered more than popularity. There were moments when analysts doubted him. Some said he was too soft. Too quiet. Too careful. But Sundar never tried to become someone else to satisfy expectations. Because authenticity is not negotiable. He believed that long-term thinking mattered more than short-term praise. That technology should serve humanity, not control it. That progress must be guided by ethics, not ego. And slowly, something became clear. Calm leadership worked. Google continued to grow. Alphabet expanded responsibly. Innovation in AI, cloud computing, and global infrastructure accelerated. Even under pressure, the company remained stable, because its leader was. Sundar Pichai proved that leadership in the modern world isn't about having all the answers. It's about having the courage to face the questions. And the journey was still far from over. Because the greatest test of leadership is not criticism. Its legacy. Some leaders think in quarters. Some think in years. Very few think in decades. Sundar Pichai belongs to the last group. From the outside, many of his decisions appeared slow, careful, even cautious. Critics questioned why he didn't move faster, speak louder, or react more aggressively to competition. But Sundar was never playing the short game. He was building something designed to last long after headlines faded. Let me ask you something: are you chasing quick wins, or are you building something that will still matter years from now? Sundar believed that technology should improve lives not just today, but for generations. That belief shaped every major decision he made. Whether it was artificial intelligence, cloud infrastructure, or sustainability, he focused on foundations, not shortcuts. Repeat after me. I am not in a hurry. I am in a process. Under his leadership, Google invested heavily in artificial intelligence, not as a feature, but as a responsibility. Sundar often spoke about AI with caution, emphasizing ethics, safety, and fairness. While others rushed to dominate, he insisted on understanding consequences. This patience was not fear. It was foresight. He knew that speed without direction leads to chaos. That innovation without values creates harm. And that leadership without humility becomes dangerous. Inside Alphabet, Sundar encouraged long-term thinking even when it was uncomfortable. Some projects took years to show results. Some investments failed. But failure was never punished, it was studied. Learning mattered more than image. He also pushed for sustainability. Google committed to operating on carbon-free energy. Not because it was fashionable, but because it was necessary. Sundar believed companies should be accountable for their impact, not just their profits. And through all of this, he remained deeply human. He spoke about his own insecurities. About imposter syndrome. About learning on the job. He never pretended to have all the answers. Instead, he surrounded himself with people smarter than him, and listened. That humility changed everything. Employees felt heard. Teams felt trusted. Decisions felt thoughtful. Sundar showed that long-term leadership is not about control, it's about alignment. Aligning innovation with ethics. Growth with responsibility. Power with purpose. And while the world debated metrics and market value, Sundar focused on something far more important. Impact. Because in the end, success is not measured by how fast you rise, but by how wisely you endure. Power changes people. At least, that's what the world believes. Titles inflate egos. Authority distances leaders from reality. But Sundar Pichai moved in the opposite direction. As his influence expanded, his awareness deepened. As pressure intensified, his humility became more visible. At the highest level of leadership, loneliness is real. Decisions affect billions. Mistakes echo globally. Words are dissected. Silence is questioned. Every move carries consequences far beyond intention. And yet, Sundar remained grounded, not because pressure disappeared, but because he never forgot where he came from. Let me ask you something: when you reach the top, will you still recognize yourself? Sundar did. He spoke openly about imposter syndrome, even after becoming CEO of Alphabet. Not as weakness, but as honesty. He admitted that learning never ends, and certainty is an illusion. That vulnerability built trust, not just inside Google, but across the world. Repeat after me. I can be powerful and still be human. Despite global responsibility, Sundar's personal life stayed simple. Family mattered. Routine mattered. Reflection mattered. He didn't live like a celebrity. He lived like a student, always observing, always improving. He resisted becoming reactionary in a reactive world. When social media demanded instant responses, he chose thoughtful ones. When critics demanded extremes, he stayed balanced. That balance became his armor. Internally, he encouraged psychological safety, where people could speak freely without fear. He believed the best ideas emerge when people feel respected, not pressured. That philosophy shaped Google's culture under his leadership. Sundar understood something many leaders forget. Authority does not replace empathy. Intelligence does not replace listening. Success does not replace character. Even under intense scrutiny, he never allowed cynicism to define him. He believed technology could still be a force for good, if guided by values. And he carried that belief forward, even when optimism felt risky. This chapter of his journey wasn't about innovation. It was about integrity. And integrity, once tested and preserved, becomes legacy. Because the greatest leaders aren't remembered for how powerful they were. They're remembered for how human they remained. When history looks back, it will not remember Sundar Pichai for dramatic speeches or loud declarations. It will remember him for something far rarer, steady leadership in an unsteady world. For proving that calm can guide complexity, and humility can lead power. Sundar's journey is not a story of sudden brilliance. It is a story of accumulation. Small choices made consistently. Discipline practiced quietly. Integrity preserved when it would have been easier to compromise. From a two-room home in Chennai to the helm of one of the world's most influential companies, the distance he traveled was not measured in miles, but in mindset. Let me ask you something. What if success doesn't require you to become louder, tougher, or someone else entirely? What if it simply requires you to become better? Repeat after me. I don't need to change who I am to grow. Sundar Pichai showed that leadership can be thoughtful without being weak. That intelligence can be empathetic. That ambition can coexist with restraint. In an era obsessed with speed and disruption, he reminded the world of the value of patience and responsibility. His legacy lives not just in products used by billions, but in the example he set for modern leadership. One that values ethics alongside innovation. Humanity alongside progress. Listening alongside decision-making. For young dreamers watching this, especially those from ordinary backgrounds, Sundar's story carries a powerful message: where you start does not limit how far you can go. What matters is how consistently you learn, how patiently you grow, and how honestly you lead. Here on English Beast, we believe that real stories create real change. And Sundar Pichai's journey proves that greatness does not always arrive with noise. Sometimes it arrives quietly, and changes the world forever. Thank you for watching. Subscribe to English Beast for more real, powerful, and life-changing stories.